Hello, Internet. It's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about Legion, Season 2, Episode 2, entitled Chapter 10. Just to be confusing.
Yes.
No.
Chapter 20.
A lot happens this episode. A lot of interesting...
Yeah.
The plot moves forward.
It does move forward.
Choppa, 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 choppa.
Does it though?
Not if it's all in his head. Okay. So, we begin with David making a deal with the Shadow King.
Yeah.
Essentially, what we've kind of learned is that Oliver and Lenny are both, I don't know what you would call them, little manifestations of the Shadow King. They're the guardians of the Shadow King. I don't know. They're projections of him. Like the Shadow King is kind of almost like a third entity at this point, which we represent by the guy with the glasses.
Yes. I mean, presumably that's Farouk, right?
Right. So Farouk is
when we finally see
using
the body, we'll see that guy asleep somewhere, or with
Yeah.
some other person in him.
Right. So Farouk is using Oliver and Lenny, their consciousnesses, their minds, as his own little personal minion lackeys.
Yes, and Oliver's actual body.
Right. Good point. Lenny does not have a body because she died,
Yes.
and so she is requesting one.
Yes.
And is getting turned down, basically, at this point.
Yeah.
But she is
And that was,
trapped.
I'm sorry to break out, but, it's like, it was kind of not annoying in a way, but it was sort of like, after you're dead, you're dead. It's, so the conversation is like, what do you want then? After your body, I guess I'm going to die. And then what happens after that? What happens after you die? It's like, oh my God. What do you, world domination? What?
Reborn, and I don't know, yeah.
New bodies. Maybe that's what,
New bodies.
and other people to be enslaved inside your head.
So that does go back to the last episode 1, when Lenny and Oliver are on the imaginary pool,
Yeah.
and they're both feeling trapped. It's because, we kind of thought that Lenny was Shadow King, but in some ways Lenny is actually just a projection within Shadow King.
Presumably, yeah. I mean,
It's like a subset of Shadow King.
Farouk in David Holler's is it his name?
Yeah.
Wow, I knew a name. Holler's mind was that weird, childlike, scary thing. Maybe that was Farouk.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
We
he's
never
been
actually saw him before this season.
agreed. Yes.
So, who was Farouk last season? Maybe that was him. Maybe he was.
Because we do know the Shadow King has been inside David's mind since young infant.
Yes, and it's he's the one who brought Lenny along.
Right.
So
Yeah.
perhaps it was like, oh, you can get along with this kid, or is it that now he's powerful enough where it's like, okay, now I can manifest my original personality, but I couldn't do it before.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Is it a changing of the power levels for Shadow King as well? All right. Good.
Because certainly, it's not like it was with David, where it was like he had to break in and he needed to break in to take control of David and get David's permission. Now, forget it. Oliver is not in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
So,
So David makes a deal with the Shadow King via Oliver and Lenny on a little carousel, basically to say, all right, I'll create a diversion so you guys can break into D3. I don't know exactly why you want to do that, but okay, because my girlfriend told me, a future version of my girlfriend told me I should help you. That sounds crazy, but okay.
it's more rational and believable if he's just in his mind.
Good point. Oh, yeah, I'm glad you're coming around. So David, well, the one little caveat he makes is no one gets hurt. No one gets hurt.
No.
I'll help you. So he takes the team out, or part of the team out into a field somewhere. Yep. I think they're looking for, well, he says he's got a pinpoint on Oliver, I think.
Yes.
And he doesn't.
No.
In fact, when he gets to this point, there's a little fortune teller booth that's got a little music box that is apparently very important for Sid's childhood.
Yes.
But there's no Farouk and there's no Oliver.
No.
which would be one and the same, perhaps. Anyway, so meanwhile, Farouk invades D3 and kills a whole lot of people.
Yes.
Turns a guy into a pig.
Yes.
Turns a guy into a fish.
Yes.
He's just singing the song, "Wouldn't you like to be a fish?" Bleep.
Yep.
So he doesn't really abide by the rules there.
No.
So now D3 suspects that David is, in fact, working with the others with Shadow King.
Yes.
Because in fact he is.
Yeah. With good reason.
With good reason. So David decides. Of course, David is crushed about the fact that all these people died. Basically, he helped and they died.
Yeah.
So he feels responsible, as he should.
Yes.
So he decides he wants to go talk to future version of Sid again.
Yes.
He wants to clarify.
And inexplicably, she can speak now.
Yes, good call. I didn't think about that. Maybe because he went to her instead of her coming to him.
That's interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, okay, when she had to, who knows?
Yeah. Meanwhile, when Farouk broke into D3, he, as in the form of Lenny, kind of screwed up with the carries. So Carrie with a C and Carrie with a K. When Carrie with a C, they try to meld. They end up with having Carrie with a K with Carrie with a C's arm sticking out of her.
Yep.
They eventually, through in other part of the show, they managed to separate using like a common memory from childhood or something like this tra-la-la-la-la thing.
You know what that is?
Tell me.
It's I don't know why you don't know this. It's the theme to the Banana Splits childhood show.
Okay.
La 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 la.
I know the song. I just didn't realize that was a thing. Okay.
That
because split.
1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana. Oh no, you got me to sing, you bastard.
Ah! Paul sings, everyone. Next, we'll do a Bollywood dance.
Darn it, I'm stuck now.
We'll never show this tape.
Yeah, well, unless it is something else too, which would be, then the Banana Splits guys should sue because.
I was just thinking because the split, the idea of splitting, something kind of they do, right? Anyway, little metaphor. So that memory enables them to split, in fact. But now they're worried about coming back together.
Yes.
Because they may not be able to split again.
They're worried about, yes. And Carrie with a K is not happy. No, Carrie with a C is not happy about having to be separated for that long. And I guess she's getting gray hair. Is that what's going on?
Carrie with a K. That's Carrie with a K.
Yeah,
the female.
That's what I said. Oh, Carrie with a K, yeah.
Yeah, she's getting white hair.
Yeah.
And right, she's never been isolated for that long, and so in some ways it's kind of like a David thing, right? David's been kind of isolated in some ways. I don't know. You might have a similar. Might be able to communicate together a little bit or empathize. I don't know. Maybe not. But those two are having an issue. I like it. I like that's a kind of a cool little.
Oh yeah.
Obstacle for them to overcome. We're not sure what happens to Melanie. Like she's still kind of drugged out and depressed. And Oliver comes to visit her, but we don't really see the result of it other than she continues to be depressed.
Yes.
And is like telling David, just get out of here. Go. Life's short.
Yeah,
we're all going to die.
As if she was really aware that he was there, that she would have had more of a reaction.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not sure where that's going, but she's still kind of she's very nihilist.
Yes, she is.
At this point.
Yes.
Which, whatever. Her love of her life finally came back after she pined for him forever, and then like within a day or two he had to leave again, or was kidnapped again.
Yes.
Forced away. So she's...
for the actress's sake, I hope there is something else.
Right. So David contrives to visit Sid from the future by saying, hey, in order to find the Shadow King, I should go outside the constraints of time and space to do my own thing. And so Carrie with a K and Carrie with a C work it out. And he goes out into this other place. But he meets up with future Sid.
Yep.
Without an arm.
Yep.
She can talk. Good call.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they're like, since they're outside of time, the way they do that is they skip frames, which is it's effective. It looks weird.
Oh, you mean video?
Yeah.
It was like sort of jumping. Yeah.
And that conversation is very illuminating.
Well, partially illuminating.
Well, I'm just saying plot-wise, it really
I
puts.
mean, because of your theory.
Right.
So there, it didn't illuminate that.
It didn't illuminate that. Yes, it gave clues.
So,
it is clues. But yeah. Well, we hear
Did
from
you hear
Sid.
that? I teased this theory.
I do have a theory. Okay. It may not even be like you watching when I say this, you'll be like, yeah, of course. But it's a theory at this point because it hasn't been said out loud. Okay. Sid basically is like, yep, you're right. I do want you to have Shadow King find his body because in my timeline, you kill him in about a week from where you are now. And you beat his brains in. I was like, woof, okay then. Well, that sounds violent.
Yeah,
and
yes, there's no way to do that peacefully.
you wrestle with him in a singlet. No, okay. You bash his brains in, and once he's dead, something worse comes along, and we're all in hiding, and it's killing everyone.
Yep.
And yeah, Shadow King killed a few people.
Yeah.
This thing kills everyone.
Yeah.
David's like, well, you talk about me like, because she says like, oh, it's good to see you like you were or something, and he's like,
See
what?
you like this, I think she says.
Okay, and he's like, what does that mean? I'm dead?
Yeah.
And she's like,
She doesn't really answer.
and he's like, dead, and she says it's complicated.
Yep, complicated.
And he says, complicated in a good way?
Yeah.
Which I like that line, actually. And it's like, eh. So my theory would be...
Here it is.
There, everybody. The thing that's killing everyone, that's worse than the Shadow King, is David.
Yep.
And
That's
so,
complicated.
Future David is full-on supervillain, or I don't know.
And it's all outside of his head.
It would be outside of his head at that point. And he's and probably, I would guess, he might be responsible for taking her arm. I don't know.
Well, it could be.
I mean,
Yeah.
she wears the gloves because she's like touching people. So maybe it's like she's trying to touch. Look, I can absorb your power. And
Maybe. Whoop, took that out.
Now you can.
Yeah, try with the other arm.
Yeah, try the other one. I think David is the horrible thing that is happening in the future that she is trying to stop because she thinks either the Shadow King can be used against David, which is a weird little bargain with the devil kind of thing,
Yeah, sure.
or the act of killing the Shadow King somehow poisons David's mind and turns him, puts him on an evil path.
Or maybe he jumps back into David's mind and
So I think David is the big bad at the end of this alternate timeline that they're trying to stop. So David has another really cool conversation with Farouk himself. They actually meet.
Yes.
They talk. They've never talked before, really. I mean, he's talked to Lenny.
Right, he was talking to Lenny and Oliver that first on the carousel.
And last season he chatted with Lenny somewhat, but he didn't really ever confront Shadow King as Shadow King.
Nope.
So it's very cool. The conversation. Farouk is sinister, suitably sinister.
Yes.
Speaks the French. Speaks not with a French accent. Speaks French. And
yes, he speaks French with a American accent. Oh no.
And he sees himself as a god. He talks about shaping reality, and he feels like David is sitting at the kids' table. David could do more with his powers, and he's not using his full potential. And they fight. They imagine themselves as wrestlers, and Farouk calls out the homoerotic quality of that fight. And they are. Then I like the bit where they start turning into. It reminded me of Sword in the Stone, the Disney animated thing where the two wizards were fighting, and they would each turn into a different creature to fight each other. So it's like, I turn into a tank. I turn into a cloud of smoke.
Yes.
I turn into...
You're a mouse. You're a dragon.
Yeah, right. No pink dragons, or whatever it was. That was the one rule that they broke. So they fight for a while, and then David agrees to help Farouk, but again points out this nobody dies thing.
Yep, nobody must die.
And Farouk promises I don't see why any promise, like he says, oh, honor is important in my people or something like that. I'm like, is it? We haven't seen any sign of that yet.
Well, we haven't really seen many signs of him yet.
Right. So I'm just saying.
I don't think
Could it be
anybody's
true?
tried to-
Yes. Would I believe it if I were David? No.
What? You're in his head.
That's right. It's all in his head.
That's all in his head.
They are in his head at that point because they're in a field that,
Yeah.
that then Farouk unzips,
Yep.
turns into a white space. And anyway, all right. So those are the big points. And then another interesting conversation David has with present time Sid.
Yes.
Where he says, "Okay, I know it's keep secrets from you. You said don't keep secrets. Here's the deal. I was keeping a secret." Because you told me to keep a secret
Yep.
in the future.
Yep.
And so I'm talking to you, so in some ways it's okay for me to tell this.
Yep.
That was how he convinced himself to do it. So he's like, fine, you told me that I should take on the Shadow King. And she's like, well, okay. I mean, she pretty much is like, I believe you. I believe that future me had a reason for telling you this.
Oh, but she did do the thing that really irritates the fuck out of me. Or at least
Oh.
I should say it wasn't her that did it. It was really... Okay. So when
Yeah.
someone says, it's the future you that told me, and it's like, are you sure? And it's like, you think I'm crazy? Or you could have been fooled. Are you, it's like,
Right.
it's like, and then you could say, oh, you're calling me an idiot. But, come on.
Option B would be, oh yeah, there's this really powerful being that can trick people's minds.
Yes.
That maybe pretended it was me.
Yeah, maybe it would have pretended it fooled anybody, and there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that somebody that was masquerading as me in the future.
So he threw out the crazy card.
And in his when he goes to visit, he tries to read her mind, and he can't do it.
That's right.
So he has less reason to be sure.
That's true. That's true. Now they chalk up the lack of being able to read future Sid's mind as like, oh, it's because of the time-space continuum or whatever.
Yeah. So instead of when he said, "You think I'm crazy?" It's like, no, you could be an idiot.
Yeah, you could
And
be.
you asking that question kind of makes me think you are an idiot.
Right. There's no other possibility. It must be a future you talking to me in my dreams. That's it. There's no other. I can't imagine what could possibly be the.
No.
But so the thing that apparently the way to find Farouk's body is through this monk.
Yes.
There was a group of monks that hid Farouk's body back in the day, and there's apparently one that Farouk is fairly sure is hiding out in D3.
Yes.
And so their job, Sid and David now, are trying to find that monk. And yeah, he's hiding out in the dark room filled with people with clanky teeth. Probably to disguises his own mental signature or something. I don't know. People trying to find him. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean,
because that's the thing. It's like you pass right by the guy, right by him in that room.
Yeah.
Other people
Because
there.
they were looking. That's theoretically why Farouk wanted to have the distraction and go to visit D3 was so he could find the monk. And so he walks through the halls. Oliver and Lenny, whatever. He walks through the halls looking for it. He walks right by that room and does not find the monk. So the monk is still at large. Meanwhile, D3 is still really on edge about David. And they have a meeting with Clark where Clark's like, I don't trust you and we're watching you. So there's a lot of distrust going on there.
Oh, and they go to the Moat cafeteria, don't they?
Did they go to the Moat cafeteria? Oh, right, that's where they meet.
Yes.
They meet up. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
their standard meeting place now. Yes, the cafeteria with moats. Where's that cafeteria? Let's go. And one little Easter egg we brought up was that Carrie with the C is investigating the orb that David was sucked off in. And he's like, God, I could swear that I made this. This looks like something I would have made. Although it does have, he mentioned it could be Shi'ar, but then he kind of dismisses that it would be.
Right.
But so you mentioned that Shi'ar is from the comic books.
Yes, it's from the comic books. There's this organization, I believe. It might be a race, but I think it's an organization, like an amalgamation of different groups, if I'm correct, or planets. That's galactic. And they came into play during the Dark Phoenix story when Jean Grey becomes Phoenix, or Dark Phoenix, I should say. And in her Phoenix persona, goes into another solar system and devours a sun that kills a planet full of people. An
nice.
An interesting side note is that originally the artist and the writer and the artist had agreed that she would just destroy this sun, but the artist was like, I could just draw a bunch of people dying on this planet. And the editor-in-chief, Jim Shooter, was like, you can't have heroes kill people! It's like, well, it doesn't matter that she was under the power of an incredible force. Now she has to die. So the Shi'ar, I think Alexandra was the name of the person who was the head of the Shi'ar, said no, basically executed Jean Grey as a result of that. So
maybe there's even a
connection, if that's what it means in this, X-Men derived story.
Yeah, well, you've got like a powerful mutant that crosses a line and gets executed. That might be a plot line that plays out here too.
Perhaps. I mean, I feel like it's they're just teasing us.
Okay.
Yeah,
throwing out a little.
Be surprised.
We're in that universe.
Yeah, be surprised if it turns out to be involved in this direct storyline. It's just potentially something you could bring in. But maybe it's like, actually, I think it was Alexandra who was romantically involved with someone else who is just this close to being on the show, but probably never will be. Who's bald?
Oh, Professor X.
Yes.
That well, we've seen him in a wheelchair.
Yep.
We've seen the wheelchair.
Yeah.
If not him.
He actually had this special wheelchair that they gave him that it would float.
Oh, you give me wings, Alexandra. So the other thing we saw was another John Hamm moment when he describes how humans are the only entities that can go mad, because he described it as like ticks and hound dogs, which is kind of like the parasite leeching off of in some ways it's Shadow King leeching off of the psyche of David.
Yeah, I enjoyed this episode more, and I think it's because I'm adjusting to it.
Okay.
So it's not like the last episode wasn't good at all. It was just sort of like, boy, I got to get used to being this show being so strange. And that part of the show was so strange. It's like, let me teach a child from very young something's wrong.
Oh, right.
Completely wrong.
Red equals green.
Yes.
And then let him cross the street and get hit.
Or go is equals red, and stop equals green. And then, so it's like, so he tells him the wrong thing, and he walks across the street and gets killed. And it's like, that didn't work. Like, what the hell is this?
So the idea that humans can go mad because they base their reality on what people teach them, I guess, as opposed to just stimuli, I think, maybe. There's more of a mind ability. So hence, somebody like Shadow King who can control reality, he can control actual reality because he's controlling people's minds. And that makes him, as he perceives it, a god. When he says, what is it, bigger than Jesus? He calls himself the sun and the moon, and I noticed it in one of those scenes, the scene where he's talking to Lenny, where Lenny's begging, like, please help me. They put him so that his face is right in front of the sun. And I think maybe that was in his own, hey, check me out, I'm a deity. Which is somewhat, I mean, again, we're themes throughout some of the shows we're talking about, but Altered Carbon, you have these people that consider themselves gods. Like, I never die, I can do anything I want, I can change bodies, I'm cool, I'm a deity.
Yeah.
And so I think Shadow King's that way too, but he would like his body.
Yes, he would.
Very determined to get it.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's kind of where we are.
That's where we are.
With the show. And, so, yes, David is still hiding secrets from D3, which means the rest of the team,
right,
except for Sid. Now, I think he and Sid... Of course, he didn't tell Sid the future. He didn't say, by the way, you have one arm.
Nope.
And something else is horrible happening. So there's a few secrets there, but he's let her in on the big thing. Which is,
and so, I mean, presumably we're going to see... I can't imagine that they're going to all this effort to have David kill Farouk in a week. Like, the thing we're trying to stop you? No, I just did it.
you're right.
I'm sure it'll be fine. It's hard to imagine all that occurring with him. Not with him allowing the Shadow King to be reunited with his body, and presumably there's some fight that Farouk is going to have to be a part of. Now, if it's against David, who still does something, right? Because like they said, he's important, so they shouldn't have killed him.
Yeah.
That'd be ironic if he had to use his mind control powers to pacify a damaged, David Holler.
Right. Now, obviously, there's still also the teeth chattering, which we think is a side effect of the Shadow King, perhaps. We don't know exactly what's causing it.
I don't know.
But that could also be part of the what's killing everyone.
Right.
This plague.
Right.
So anyway, we will be back next week for that. Also, a couple of things in advance of that. One, fellow Dork Lord, Chris.
Yes.
Who actually was just happened to be going to C2E2.
Just walking past.
He was our correspondent with the Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo. So what he did is he cosplayed at it as Triclops, which I'm sure everybody knows. Huh? Yeah? Okay, you didn't know. All right, it's he's one of the villains from He-Man.
Oh, okay.
Boom. He-Man villain Triclops. And so
I thought he was 2 more clops than Scott Summers.
Right. Or Millhouse Biclops.
Just one more. One more than Biclops.
One more than Biclops. So he did some great footage. First of assembling his costume, and then at C2E2. And there's some cool pictures of people cosplaying. So that'll be a cool thing I will put together. Take a little effort on my part to stitch it all together, which will be really cool. And then we had a commenter demand that I do another Lord of the Rings video based on the Blue Wizards, which I'm happy to do.
It'll begin now.
It'll be actually Paul's going to do it because Paul's very up on the Blue Wizards, as it turns out.
They're blue. And they're wizards.
Perfect. You got it. You've said nothing wrong so far.
Yeah.
So I will do that as well. And Jessica Jones is still out there, and we will be doing that at some point.
Hasn't gone anywhere.
Hasn't gone anywhere. So that will be cool. And so we will see you guys later.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.